Saturday morning, the Experts program kicks off here on Power Talk Radio, 1460 and 101 FM. And Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, is with us on April Fool's Day. Hey, Luis, how you doing today?
I am doing horribly, my friend. It's just terrible day.
Oh,
April Fools.
Okay. Now, I was just wondering, do you and Ronnie play any April Fool's jokes on each other, or beyond that now?
Occasionally, we do, yeah. I mean, not every year. Sometimes, I'll be inspired, or she'll be inspired, and we'll do a running gag, and then just like April Fool each other by the end of the day.
Oh, okay. Hey, before we jump into our main topic of the day, I did want to go back to something that we touched on last week, and it had to do with the security of the tap and pay systems. And you were mentioning, when I was asking you about it, you were referring to using the pay systems linked to your phone and tap and pay with that. That wasn't exactly what I was asking about. I'm glad that it works that well. But what about tap and pay with your card, where you take out your credit card or your debit card and you see the little icon there to tap and pay at the point of purchase? How secure is that compared to putting your card into the throat of the machine and punching in your numbers and so forth?
On the face of it, it's pretty much the same thing, with the exception that I will say that if you are concerned about skimmers or card readers that people can install on devices, if you see the tap and pay option, then that can't be, skimmers don't collect that information. They can't collect information just by the design of the encryption of the chip that's being used. So it's a safer use of a credit card or a debit card that way, but it's no less risky in terms of, you can do either and you'll be just as safe, unless you're concerned about skimmers, in which case tap and pay. And
okay, so you can use that. And then in a lot of instances, with the exception of the ATM at your bank, in most of those tap and pay systems at point of purchase, if you're using a debit card, you can bypass your PIN, usually by pressing the enter button. And a lot of people don't understand that they don't need to put their PIN in, and you should always ask for that option. That's the thing to me, is that you tell the clerk ahead of time, you say, look, it's debit, but I want to run this as credit. And then because a lot of times they have to enable that on their side. Some places it's just automatic. You see the enter for the PIN to come up, and you just press the enter button, the green button, or if you're at Home Depot, you press the red X, and it goes right through. Never put your PIN in unless you have to. And generally, only when you go to your bank and use an ATM is where they require you to put a PIN in.
Yeah.
So, all right. So here's a story from CNBC. Dumb phones are on the rise in the U.S. as Gen Z looks to limit screen time. Okay, so what do we mean by a dumb phone?
So think back to a day when your phone did nothing more than just call people.
Like a flip phone.
There was no screen for you to, browse the internet or launch apps. It was just there to make a phone call and receive calls. And a lot of Gen Zers are looking to try to minimize their screen time and do so for mental health reasons primarily. They just realize that with a smartphone, they're constantly looking at Facebook, Instagram, and all these other apps that they have, or they're surfing the web, and they're not really taking the time to appreciate life as it passes by them. So they're opting to get these dumb phones, as you call them, that are still available. In fact, they're sold, millions of them are sold every year, and people use them in lieu of smartphones. And some parents are actually giving those phones to their kids because they still want to be able to call their kids and have their kids be able to call them, but they don't want them to have all the apps and all the access that a smartphone gives you.
Right. Basically, the old style flip phone, or just what they call, the dumb phones that can't do all that. Now, I thought that most of those dumb phones were only provisioned for 3G networks, but do they actually work on 4G and 5G networks now, the new generations of them?
Yeah, because there are companies that are manufacturing them to this day, and they're manufacturing them to current global wireless standards, understanding that the old flip phones from way back when won't work on a 4G or 5G network, and people still want them. So you can enable them to work on the new technology just as well as you can a smartphone.
And what does it cost you to buy one of these phones now?
They're pretty cheap. If you go online and you check out, and you can find them on Amazon and places like that, they're generally somewhere under $50 for one of these phones. So you just buy it and enable it with a SIM card from your provider, whoever that happens to be, and you're online. You just can't surf, you can't take pictures, and you just have to sit back and enjoy the world as it passes by and read a book or a newspaper, if you can find a newspaper.
Right. So these are basically like what you'd refer to as burner phones as well. These are called burner phones.
Yeah.
Cheap phones for just a single purpose. By the way, speaking of if you can find a newspaper or not, I saw an interesting, this is off topic, but you just reminded me of it. San Francisco Chronicle has stopped home delivery. So if you subscribe to the Chron and you want the hard copy version Paperboy brought you, they're going to mail it to you.
Oh my gosh.
So now it's yesterday's news 3 days from now.
Well,
boy, is that
that's too bad.
Is that waving the white flag or what?
Yeah, that is.
Is that basically saying it's over?
I remember when Ronnie and I would go out, we subscribed to the Herald, the San Jose Mercury News, and the Chronicle, and especially the Sunday editions. That would be all day entertainment, reading those three newspapers and just soaking in all of this stuff. And the world has changed, my friend.
Yeah,
but we can still get dumb phones. So
right.
There you go.
Yeah, and just looking at that, I wonder if they're going to go to a situation where that the paper they mail to you won't have any of the breaking news in it. What would have been breaking news, but it'll just be all the features, columns, editorials, the food section, and things like that. But anything like sports with the last night's sports scores, obviously none of that's going to be applicable. So you probably will get an online, like if you buy a subscription to the paper for a hard copy version, you probably get an online subscription as well, where you can go online and read the news as it's being produced.
Yeah, I think you're right. The newspapers have realized that, the idea of publishing something that is basically obsolete the moment it comes off the printers in terms of the news just doesn't pay anymore. And people still might want the in-depth articles and the features, like you said, and they're willing to pay for that. But they want to consume, breaking news as it happens, not the next day.
Yeah, and they get it on their phone, unless they have a dumb phone. And
unless they have a dumb phone.
Yeah, back to the dumb phones. A great idea, especially for two groups of people: older folks that are not very computer savvy, but they want to have a phone to be able to call their kids or to call 911. Help! I've fallen and I can't get up. Or or you give them to your kids, like particularly if they're school age. I'm talking about like grammar school or junior high, and you want to be able to get hold of your child for something, or they need to get hold of you. It's great to give them a dumb phone because you know that all they can do is either text or receive or make a call, but they can't sit on the web all day on it.
Absolutely. They won't be harassed or harass anybody on social media. So everybody wins. All
right. Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, our guest today, kicking things off on the Saturday edition of the Experts Program here on Power Talk Radio. Online, alvareztg.com, @AlvarezTG. That is the Twitter handle. And Luis, the toll-free number for the I-Team.
Give us a call at 866-78-I-Team. That's 866-784-8326.